so much and had so many tough fights that, you know, the body's worn, and he's not the same Canelo anymore.
December will mark a collision of styles, sizes, legacies, and fan bases. Canelo Alvarez versus Terence Crawford is more than just a mega fight. It's a moment boxing has waited for. The venue is now confirmed, the contracts are signed, and the stage is set for one of the most fascinating matchups in modern boxing. Dana White has made it official, but now the question lingers. What happens when a naturally bigger man with a brutal resume at 168 faces a slick, instinctive, pound-for-pound master who made his name in lighter divisions? Canelo's been here before, strong, experienced, seasoned. Crawford is younger, faster, and perhaps sharper than anyone Canelo's fought in recent years. Let's break down the build-up to this fight, starting with the intense face-off and what the boxing world is saying about this historic clash. The moment Canelo and Crawford came face-to-face for the first time, it was less about words and more about unspoken energy. The stare-down wasn't just about ego, it was about intent. You could feel the weight of the moment. Crawford's eyes didn't blink. He wasn't in awe of the bigger man, and Canelo, as always, held the poise of a man who's walked through fire before. This was a clash of cold focus, two athletes locked in with everything on the line. The body language said it all. Canelo stood solid, grounded, confident in his domain at 168. Crawford, though smaller in frame, looked like he belonged. This wasn't a showcase, it was a warning. Both fighters know what's coming. The tension wasn't manufactured, it was real. And it was a preview of the firestorm coming in September. Canelo may be working on those trademark power combinations in the gym, but this fight is about more than just raw strength. The footage shows him hammering away on the pads, explosive, crisp, and confident. But Crawford isn't the kind of fighter who walks into a punch. What this highlights is that even with all the knockout power Canelo carries, especially at 168, he's going to need more than heavy hands to solve the puzzle. The strategy has to go deeper. Crawford's movement, his defense, and his adaptability will require Canelo to mix timing, pressure, and ring cutting like never before. Power alone won't break the riddle. This is where experience will either elevate Canelo or expose him, because against a fighter like Bud, loading up the right hand might just get you countered. Watching Canelo in training reveals something far more important than knockouts. His subtlety, his head movement, reflexes, and ability to anticipate shots is what made him such a dominant figure over the years. Canelo knows this isn't just about brute force. It's about survival against a fighter who is unpredictable, calculated, and cerebral. Every slip, every roll under the mitts, every tight weave of the head shows he's prepping to go 12 rounds against a man who sees the game in slow motion. And that's crucial because Crawford isn't a one-trick pony. He adapts. So for Canelo to keep up, this kind of sharp defensive polish is going to be key. This is where elite fighters separate themselves by refining not just their offense, but their ability to avoid danger. And Canelo is clearly trying to cover all bases. While Canelo trains for knockout openings, Crawford is quietly issuing his own message. He hears everything. He's been back in the gym, locked in, and his statement isn't bravado, it's awareness. He knows what people are saying, that Canelo's too big, that 168 is a bridge too far, but Crawford has always defied categories. Yes, he's moving up, but what's underrated is how special he is. His instincts are absurd. His feet, his reaction time, his ability to switch stances mid-exchange, it's all part of what makes him nearly impossible to game plan for. If you look beyond the weight, Crawford brings the kind of slick timing that frustrates even the strongest opponents. And when a fighter's confidence is rooted in focus, not noise, that's when you know he's dangerous. Crawford isn't just entering enemy territory, he's planning to rule it. If anyone had doubts about Crawford's physical readiness, the image of him deadlifting 455 pounds should answer them. It's not just gym theatrics, it's a glimpse into how serious Bud is about matching Canelo's physicality. Power matters in this fight, not just to knock someone out, but to absorb, to clinch, to hold center. Crawford isn't trying to bulk unnecessarily, but he's clearly working to ensure he isn't ragdolled by the heavier Canelo. His base is solid, his strength underrated, and he's building the kind of core power that translates into stamina, durability, and torque on punches. You add that to his already elite balance and sharp IQ, and you've got a fighter who's not just moving up in weight, he's growing into it with purpose. Come fight night, Canelo will not be facing a frail welterweight, he'll be facing a machine.
But you know what? There's always a way. Put it that, there's always a way. There's always a way.
When Ray Leonard speaks on a fight, the world listens. And his take on Canelo versus Crawford cuts right to the heart of it. Yes, size matters, but that's never been the end of the story in boxing. Leonard himself knows what it means to defy odds. And he's been in the ring with punchers and technicians alike. His words serve as a reminder that while Canelo may be too big on paper, the fight is won in the details. In the moments where a slicker fighter disrupts rhythm, frustrates a power puncher, and turns the tide round by round. Leonard's endorsement of "there's always a way" isn't just encouragement, it's foreshadowing. Crawford has a path to victory. It's narrow, it's risky, but it's real, and Leonard knows that's where legends are made.
Terence Crawford is a great fighter, really good fighter, but that's too much weight for him. So he's going to try to survive and move around and try to win the...
Jose Benavidez Sr. doesn't doubt Crawford's talent, he doubts the weight. And to be fair, it's a concern many share. Going from dominating at 147 to surviving at 168 is a massive leap. Benavidez sees Crawford as a mover, someone who will have to rely on evasiveness and activity to win rounds rather than toe-to-toe exchanges. The implication is clear. He doesn't believe Crawford will hurt Canelo. So the strategy becomes survival. Hit, move, avoid. Win a chess match, not a war. But that too is dangerous, because if Crawford becomes too defensive, it plays into Canelo's pressure style. Still, this quote reminds us, not everyone is sold on the jump. Even if you're great at a lower weight, taking on someone who's been comfortable at 168 for years is no easy feat.
And it's going to be the same thing with Terence Crawford. Crawford's a little guy, you know. He's coming up 2 divisions to fight Canelo.
Jose reaffirms the size disparity bluntly. Crawford is simply the smaller man, and in boxing, that's not always about weight on the scale. It's about the way that weight carries. The thickness of the legs, the width of the frame, the natural ability to absorb punishment and deliver it. Canelo has fought behemoths at 175. He's used to the mass, the pace, the clinch work. Crawford, for all his brilliance, has never fought at this scale. That reality forces Bud into a high-stakes situation where one mistake could cost him more than it would at welterweight. Benavidez's repetition of this point is more than critique. It's a reflection of the physical truths of boxing. That's what makes this fight so compelling, because if Crawford wins, it won't just be a victory, it'll be an act of technical rebellion.
I think he's going to have problems trying to catch Terence Crawford, to be honest with you.
Jose Benavidez Sr. continues with a sharp observation that Canelo's legs just aren't what they used to be. And in boxing, when a fighter starts to lose his legs, it's like losing half your arsenal. Canelo has always been a pressure fighter, but that style depends on being able to cut off the ring, move in and out, and create angles that trap opponents. Against someone like Crawford, who thrives on space, timing, and footwork, leg strength and movement are everything. If Canelo is a step slower, if his knees can't keep up, he might end up chasing shadows all night. Benavidez paints a picture of a great fighter at the back end of his physical prime, and that creates a dangerous opening for Crawford, who has made a career of exploiting small physical gaps and turning them into big moments. This could be the factor that defines the tempo of the entire fight.
I'm hoping that, you know, it's a little bit exciting, because I heard that Canelo was the worst fight ever on pay-per-view to throw the less punches in history.
It's a bold statement calling this fight potentially boring. Jose Benavidez Sr. isn't questioning the skill levels, he's questioning the entertainment factor. He brings up past criticisms of Canelo being involved in one of the lowest punch-suck-wet PPV fights in history, suggesting that this bout might mirror that. The implication here is style clash. Crawford being evasive and technical, and Canelo, if his legs are compromised, may lead to a high-level chess match rather than a slugfest. But this could also be misleading. What some fans consider boring, fewer punches, more footwork, more defensive mastery, can actually be one one of the highest expressions of boxing as an art. The fight's entertainment value will depend on how well each fighter adapts. Will Crawford stand and trade to prove a point? Will Canelo adjust and find ways to land cleanly? The truth will emerge under the lights.
So much and had so many tough fights that, the body's worn, and he's not the same Canelo anymore.
The most damning critique comes here. Benavidez Sr. suggests Canelo is no longer elite level. Too many wars, too much wear and tear. When your body's been through decades of grinding fights, no matter how good you are, eventually it catches up. This isn't just about age, it's about accumulation. The Golovkin fights, the Kovalev war, the surgeries, it all builds up. If that version of Canelo shows up, Crawford could be facing a man whose timing is just off enough, whose reactions are just slow enough to be picked apart. But here's the paradox. Sometimes experience masks decline. Sometimes a veteran fighter can use what's left of his toolkit to shut down a rising storm. If Canelo really isn't elite anymore, we'll see it under the microscope of Crawford's speed and IQ, but if he still has it, Bud is in for a grueling night. Shane Mosley doesn't mince words. He echoes what many veterans believe. Canelo is simply too big. Size doesn't always win fights, but it always influences them, especially when the margin is this wide. Canelo's ability to absorb punishment at 168 and deliver punishing shots is a major advantage. Crawford may be faster and more creative, but if he gets clipped by a flush Canelo shot, that weight behind it is different than anything he's felt before. Mosley's warning isn't about doubting Crawford's harder skills, it's about physics. Mass and momentum matter. If Crawford can't keep Canelo honest with his power or evade consistently, it could become a matter of survival. And if he takes damage early, all the slickness in the world might not be enough. Mosley's perspective is simple. You can't fight gravity forever.
The reason why, if Crawford was a mover like the rest of the fight, then maybe he can have a good chance.
Shane continues with something crucial, Crawford's mentality. He says if Bud were a pure mover, a hit and don't get hit fighter, maybe he'd have a clearer edge. But that's not who Terence Crawford is. He likes to fight. He's got that chip on his shoulder, that internal need to stand his ground and prove he's better. And against Canelo, that could be dangerous. Crawford can move, he can box, but when pushed, he plants his feet and trades. If ego gets in the way of strategy, if Crawford tries to bang with a bigger man, he's giving Canelo what he wants. This is a test of not just physical endurance, but mental discipline. Can Bud stick to the plan for 12 rounds, or will his pride tempt him into a war he doesn't need to fight?
I think that being that Crawford is a fighter, that's gonna be dangerous.
Shane Mosley finishes the thought by highlighting Crawford's problem. He's not wired to run. He's a fighter. That's what makes him dangerous and lovable, but it also puts him at risk. Bud doesn't just want to outpoint opponents, he wants to outdo them. And when you carry that mentality into the ring against someone with Canelo's power, you can't afford too many emotional lapses. Every time Crawford chooses to sit down on a punch, he's exposing himself. Every time he trades, he's betting he can get out before the return fire comes. That kind of chess match is thrilling but deadly. Crawford's courage might be his greatest strength or his downfall. This fight will test whether he can balance fire with finesse, will with wisdom.
Been in the ring with everybody.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? Like from light heavyweight all the way down to 54.
Shane closes with a laugh, but his words carry weight. Canelo's been in with everyone, from slick black American boxers to heavy punchers, from 175-pound giants to 154-pound speedsters. There is nothing he hasn't seen. He's seen angles, he's seen pressure. He's been outboxed, outthought, and still found ways to win. Crawford is a generational talent, no doubt, but he's now stepping into Canelo's world, and that world is unforgiving. 168 isn't just a number, it's a battlefield Canelo has ruled for years. Bud has danced at 140, dominated at 147, and dipped into 154, but 168 is a leap into uncharted territory. And Shane's point is clear: respect what Bud's trying to do, but don't underestimate how deep Canelo's experience runs. This fight isn't just Crawford moving up in weight, it's him entering the lion's den. Canelo Alvarez is bigger, he's stronger, he's more experienced at this level, but but Terence Crawford is younger, quicker, and maybe more mentally sharp. This isn't a mismatch, it's a masterpiece in the making. Canelo has faced every style and survived. Crawford has evolved every time he's stepped up. Now, with the venue confirmed and the world watching, we're about to witness a generational clash. Can Crawford's brilliance outshine Canelo's power? Or will Canelo remind the world that this is still his domain? One thing's for sure, this won't be easy for either man. To stay locked in with Box Eye Hub for all the real breakdowns, fight week coverage, and expert takes, smash that like button, subscribe, and turn on post notifications so you don't miss a second of this historic showdown. See you at the weigh-in.